Hi, I'm Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy Segment Show. Also today in this segment, I'm at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and continuing episode 281 with part 2. What you see right behind me is Frisco 916. Frisco 916 was built sometime after 1932 and is a wooden caboose. This car was used behind freight trains on the St. Louis-San Francisco Railroad, Frisco for short, as the train crew's office many years ago. Then later on it was retired and was owned by a man named Greg Thompson. Then he later donated the caboose to the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is preserved today as well. In 2023, it was added with the museum's logo pasted on the sidewalls and stenciled with the name of the museum and museum's address painted on boards hanging on the sidewalls. Also, it was then lifted by a forklift and was placed on the trucks on the section of tracks just outside the museum's entryway. Today, it is preserved here at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is seen today and can be seen outside the museum's electric sliding gate, as it serves as the museum sign as well. What you see right behind me is Oklahoma Railway Museum 5051. Oklahoma Railway Museum 5051 was built in 1963 and is a flat car. Originally, this car was originally built for the Southern Pacific Railroad, and the original number it had is unknown. It could be a possibility that it had this number during its career on the Southern Pacific Railroad. It was used to haul cargo that flat cars like this one hauled many years ago, such as steel beams and vehicles. Then it was acquired by Quest Communications, where it may have been given this number. Then it was acquired by Bob Hussey, who was a member of the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He donated the car to the museum's collection. Today, it can be found here at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is today. What you see right behind me is Oklahoma Railway Museum 5053. Oklahoma Railway Museum 5053 was built in 1964 and is a flat car. Originally, this car was built for the Southern Pacific Railroad, and the original number it had is unknown. It could be possible that it had this number during its career on the Southern Pacific Railroad. It was used to haul cargo that flat cars like this one hauled many years ago. Then it was acquired by Quest Communications, where it may have been given this number. Then it was acquired by Bob Hussey, who was a member of the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He donated the car to the museum's collection. Today, it can be found here at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is today. Okay, you could see between me are these railroad heralds: Rock Island, Chicago, Rock Island and Pacific, Frisco, St. Louis, San Francisco. And it says here that they were proudly displayed on the Oklahoma City's South Robinson Street, which the bridge was just located about half a mile east of Union Station, and allowed both railroads to pass above Robinson Street to access the station. And it was displayed for almost 80 years, from 1931 to 2010, on the bridge. And the bridge was torn down to make way for a new bridge with rerouting of I-40 Crosstown Expressway. And they were cut and were then moved to here, where they are proudly on display today. What you see right behind me is Frisco 814. Frisco 814 was built by Electromotive Division in LaGrange, Illinois in 1954 and is the 197 41st diesel locomotive built by that factory and is an F9A type diesel locomotive. However, this engine was never actually owned by the St. Louis-San Francisco Railroad, Frisco for short. Originally, this locomotive was built for the Northern Pacific Railroad and was originally numbered 7003D and was used for hauling a streamlined passenger train for the Northern Pacific Railroad. In 1970, the Spokane, Portland, and Seattle, Great Northern, Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, and Northern Pacific Railroads merged to form the Burlington Northern Railroad, and also it was renumbered 814 and was used on the Burlington Northern Railroad as well. Then later on it was retired, and in 1982 it was donated to the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and was painted in the scheme of the Central Oklahoma Railroad and still had the number. Then about 2007 or 2006, it was repainted as a St. Louis-San Francisco diesel, Frisco for short, as a tribute to that railroad, and still retained the number as well. Today it is preserved here at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is seen today, and sometimes it is even seen pulling the museum's train as well. What you see right behind me is Great Northern 1304. Great Northern 1304 was built by Pullman Standard in 1950 and is a passenger coach. It was originally built as a 1-2 sleeping lounge observation car and was originally numbered 1197 and named Priest River. Also, this car was used on the Great Northern's Empire Builder as well. In 1955, it was rebuilt with 4 bedrooms, 1 compartment, and 6 roomettes, and renamed Grand Coldy. Then in 1968, the car was rebuilt as a chair car with 68 seats and was renumbered 1304. Then in 1970, the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, Northern Pacific, and Great Northern, and Spokane, Portland, and Seattle railroads merged to form the Burlington Northern Railroad, and it was soon used by that railroad and was renumbered 6805. Then it was used by Amtrak in 1972 and retained the number. Then it was retired and was then purchased by Howard Thornton in 1988 and was renamed Mistletoe II. Then in 2011 it was donated to the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is seen today. Also, it can be seen rolling on the museum's tracks with the passenger train sometimes as well. What you see right behind me is Canadian National 5478. Canadian National 5478 was built by Canadian Car and Foundry in Kingston, Ontario in 1954 and is a passenger coach. This car was built to seat 80 passengers till the 1960s. It was reduced to 76. This car was used on the railroad for many years when being used on the passenger trains running through Canada. Then the Canadian National Railroad passenger trains were handed over to Via Rail, which is Canada's national intercity passenger train that is similar to Amtrak. This car, along with the other cars in the passenger car fleet, was transferred to Via Rail as well. Then it was retired, and in 1999 it was purchased by FarmRail Inc. for business train and excursion service use till being retired and put into storage. Then in 2020 the car was then bought by the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is today. Also, it still retains the FarmRail livery and sometimes operates with the museum's passenger train as well. What you see right behind me is Canadian National 5627. Canadian National 5627 was built by Canadian Car and Foundry in Kingston, Ontario in 1954 and is a passenger coach. Also, the car is named Zebulon Pike. This car was built to seat 80 passengers till the 1960s. It was reduced to 76. This car was used on the railroad for many years when being used on passenger trains running through Canada. Then the Canadian National Railroad passenger trains were handed over to Via Rail, which is Canada's national intercity passenger train that is similar to Amtrak. This car, along with the other cars in the passenger car fleet, was transferred to Via Rail as well. Then it was retired, and in 1999 it was purchased by FarmRail Inc. for business train and excursion service use till being retired and put into storage. Then in 2020 the car was bought by the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is today. Also, it still retains the FarmRail livery and sometimes operates with the museum's passenger train as well. What you see right behind me is Burlington Junction 701. Burlington Junction 701 was built by Alco in Schenectady, New York in 1968 and is the 6018-01st diesel locomotive built by that factory and is a C415 type diesel locomotive. The locomotive was originally built for the Columbia and Cowlitz Railway and it always carried this number. It spent many years switching cars on the railroads it was used by for many years. Then in 1992 it was sold to the Port of Tillamook Bay Railroad in Oregon and it kept the number. And it was soon used to pull trains as well. Then it was sold to the Mount Hood Railroad and it kept the number. Then in 1999 it was sold to the Burlington Junction Railroad and it kept the number once again. It remained in the livery war in Oregon till 2016. It was given the red paint scheme for Burlington Junction. It was also back in switching service as well. Then it was acquired by a member of the Oklahoma Railway Museum, who then brought it to the museum in 2022. Today it can be seen here at the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it is today, and sometimes it operates on the railroad tracks as well. What you see right behind me is Burlington Northern Santa Fe 1205. Burlington Northern Santa Fe 1205 was built by General Motors Division in London, Ontario in 1957 and is the A1093rd diesel locomotive built by that factory and is a GG20B type diesel locomotive. It was originally built for the Canadian Pacific Railroad and was originally numbered 8637 and was originally a GP9 type diesel locomotive. It was used to haul freight trains on the railroad for many years. In the 1980s, the Canadian Pacific rebuilt the locomotive with a chopped nose at their shops in Calgary, Alabama. It was then renumbered 1544 and was rebuilt. This was the first hydrogen locomotive in North America. In 2006, it became one of 6 GP9s to be selected for conversion by Rail Power Inc. to be rebuilt into a GG20B, known as a green goat, which the letters GG stands for, and is known as an early form of battery electric switcher. It is what is known as an early hybrid switcher, which utilized a 300 horsepower Caterpillar diesel and large battery bank to reduce emissions and fuel usage. The work was done at Alstom, which is the railroad's former Ogden shops in Calgary, Alberta, and included a replacement of the cab and hoods as well as the internal components. After that, it was renumbered 1702, and the railroad canceled the order and was never used as a GG20B. In 2007, it was purchased by the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad and was used to serve as the core for an experimental hydrogen cell electric locomotive to be built at the railroad shops in Topeka, Kansas, in partnership with Vehicle Projects Inc., Ballard Fuel Systems, and the U.S. Department of Defense. Also, the short hood and cab remained, and the long hood rose to a height even with the cab roof, giving the unique appearance. In 2009, it was then repainted in the Burlington Northern Santa Fe livery and was then officially unveiled as a hydrogen fuel cell switcher, and it was moved to Pueblo, Colorado for extensive testing at the Association of American Railroads Managed Transportation Technology Center Institute test facility to enter service at the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Hobart Yard in Los Angeles, California. It then returned to Topeka, Kansas after it was taken out of service in 2014. In 2020, it was soon put in storage with some retired locomotives owned by the railroad in Galveston, Texas. In 2022, it was donated to the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma by the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad. Then in 2023, it was moved to the museum by rail. Also, the donation comes as the railroad would partner with Progress Rail and Chevron to develop a road locomotive using hydrogen power. It is also said that it is used to provide electricity to be generated with the need of heat and light to the passenger cars. Also, it sometimes operates on the museum's tracks as well. What you see right behind me is Frisco 2568. Frisco 2568 was built by Pullman in 1913 and is a sleeper car. This car was originally known as the Pullman Erringdale. It was converted to a tourist sleeper in 1943 and given the number 2568. And the car was used for when passengers would be spending the night on the train when going from place to place and had their own compartments to sleep in when this coach was used on the railroad. In 1950, the St. Louis-San Francisco Railroad, Frisco for short, purchased the car and converted it into a maintenance-of-way bunk and kitchen car. Then it was retired and sat on the Capital Steel Company's tracks awaiting to be cut up for scrap that it has been stored on but didn't meet the torch, so Capital Steel kindly donated the car to the Oklahoma Railway Museum in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. In 2002, the car was converted to being a display car and features exhibits inside it as well. What you see right here is this handcar that is standing on these wooden tracks. This handcar saw service on the Santa Fe Railroad several years ago, and it was used to help inspect tracks on the system. And then it was later put on display at the fairgrounds in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, till it was later moved to this location at the Oklahoma Railway Museum where it is today. Well, I hope you all enjoyed learning about trains with me today in Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show. Also, I hope to see you all again in the next segment. And if you didn't subscribe to my channel yet, the subscribe button is just down below the video screen. And if you did not give the Facebook page a like yet, here's where you'll want to go. And if you didn't give the Instagram page a follow yet, here's where you'll want to go as well. And also be sure to get your merch at teesprings.com. Link is in the description box below, along with the Facebook and Instagram pages. And remember to subscribe to the Train Guy. So this is Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show. Sign now until next time. All aboard.